Yes, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Kind of low though.
Okay.
What about me?
That sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good. Is that good?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah,
Right.
that's better.
Still he won't show. By him we mean Connie. By silence.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. Let's look at this. When we say the things that help spell inferiority, gain and confidence in our authority. We want to open up all eyes wide shut, give it to you in the raw, unfiltered, uncut. From mental health to Black wealth, dismantle indoctrination by having all the hard conversations right here on Let's Look at This. Some topics you may dispute, except the ones you shouldn't refute. Must continue to buy Black to get our dollars back in our community. Right. Good morning, Minister P. Let's go. Let's go.
Good morning, Dr. K. Yes, this is Minister P bringing you peace in reality. I want to say good morning to all my brothers and sisters.
Right.
Yes.
Today's topic is looking into the Voting Rights Bill of 1965 and some of the changes that's being brought across as far as law, as far as how we looking at the perspective of perceive ourselves to be voting in this society. As we look at that voting bill, right? Voting bills, right? Or act, however you want to pronounce it, it has its processes reference to the establish of it was to protect Blacks here in America during the time of when you move out of the era of slavery into the Jim Crow era. So as we talk about that and try to come up with solutions to bring that to the forefront, as we, here we talked about last week, Minister P, in your absence, we discussed distraction. Divisiveness equals distraction. So it's reference to the distraction that we have and the divisiveness that we have amongst ourselves in the voting process. Here we are in a distracted state by something else. When you look at this virus that we're talking about, that's a distraction. Why they're making changes on the other end to the aspect of the voting aspect of things. That voting aspect, it narrows down to the 14th and 15th Amendment. And we've discussed that on many occasions,
Right,
and talked about that. But here we are in the aspect of dealing with that process of the voting rights bill, which only pertains to now. They try to equate, when you read about it, they throw minorities in there. We talk about the word minority. Word minority, if anyone didn't know. I don't know if you wanted to reiterate the word minority.
most definitely. Listen, redundancy in education is a purposeful progression, and that's what we need, definitely.
Yeah, if we move forward in our conversation talking about the voting rights bill, but we like to tie up all ends to when it comes to the aspect of research. And here we are talking about, again, having that that Bible, Minister P.
There it is, the Law Dictionary.
Law Dictionary.
Get you a copy.
Need a copy. It's definitely beneficial in this day and time, especially, Minister P, because we had a lot of questioning I've had a lot of questions asked to me as reference to, and I'm not going to go into detail of it because that's not the excuse me, the topic of our show today. But we have a lot of people I've had in the last couple of days talk about laws and the violation of laws. And of course, you already know what that's pertaining to in the state that we're in now as a community. So, but getting back on track is reference to this minority aspect, the word minority. I refrain personally from using that term because it's to me, it's a demeaning term. It doesn't put anybody in a state of a positive frame of mind. One is predictive. If we really study the word, we try to babysit, and most of our people on the word to, hey, oh, well, I'm a minority. It's almost like you're crying, you're begging for something. So minority, in the context of constitutional guarantee of equal protection, as was stated, minority does not have a merely numerical notion. Rather, it refers to a identifiable and specifically disadvantaged group. Yeah, we are that, but that's a vague terminology.
Most definitely.
Minority, and if you take the word and shorten it, what if you take the already off of it? What is the word?
Minor.
Yeah. So what are our children?
Hey, well, you know what? Listen, when I think of that word minority, though, I think of it in these terms. There's two aspects of it. There's a minority in numbers. So if you're lesser in number, you are a minority in number. Then the other aspect of it is a minority in power. And we know that that's what this nation runs on. It runs on capitalism, power, and the transformation of that power to other entities. And so anybody that does not have that power, I look at it in those terms as a minority, because you don't have the established power. And so when you look at it in those two terminologies, it gives it a different feel to the word minority.
And you're correct. It does. An aspect of that, but I don't want to perceive it as a celebratory term.
Yeah.
Because when it's used in greater society, minority, everybody fish reels right into it. So when it's time for
The transformation of power.
yeah, when it's time for transformation of power, we can't step into that transformation
Right.
of power, and we can't perceive that of power because we got too many other minority groups attached
to it.
to us. So we have to be careful of that term because again, anybody can be at a disadvantage for the most part, but we know greater society is at a all-time advantage. And that could put us using that term for us, it puts you in a particular group, and then you're looked at amongst and say, well, you're part of that whole group. You know, I perceive myself to be something one, original, two, ordinary than any other kind.
Mm.
Because when we look at minorities, we the only one that's been placed in a position of that aspect to be considered as such, as a disadvantage. And we've been at a disadvantage when you start doing the history and you start looking at numbers. We're at a disadvantage. We've always been at a disadvantage, especially when we thought that we have arrived during the era of Jim Crow, semi-Jim Crow era,
Right.
that we're still in now. But that era, when we speak of Jim Crow, is when we speak of the era of the civil rights movement, quote unquote.
And Dr. K, can I even add this? I look at it as a resurgence. We're living right now, to me, in a time of the resurgence. It's slow and subtle, but it is a resurgence of this Jim Crow era that so crippled our advancement. And so if we're not careful, that subtlety will grow into the greater reality. And next thing you know, you're walking right back into that same old system that crippled us.
Yeah. What we perceive to have come out of, even though we're still in it,
right?
But we may not see on the front end as we walk out our door on an average. We say on an average, we may not see it as soon as we walk out our door, but it's there. It just comes in other forms today.
Right.
You know, we have technology to force to hide it. We have media, of course, to portray it and create a propaganda. So it's a lot of, you know, in continuing, if you will, Dr. Minister P, continuing our conversation based on last week with me and Jay Reese at show talking about distraction, divisiveness. Here we are in a divisive system and being distracted from the real terms at hand. The settledness that we've taken a backseat to the settledness, and we're not paying attention because we've been distracted by such as what we call in a state of emergency that we're in now, as far as this health crisis that we have going on. To me, that's a distraction. As if we've never been into any type of other health crisis before. To me, it's the health crisis of being Black in the first place. If you ask me, that's a health crisis, but nobody looks at it as such. But maybe you, me, maybe you and me.
We
for
do.
the most part.
Yeah, because it is a crisis that needs to be addressed. And I totally agree with what you and Jay Reese were talking about, because divisiveness does one thing: it takes you off of the focus at hand and brings you to another lesser focus, so that they can do what they need to do on this side to build that up. And And that's, listen, there used to be a slang when I was coming up is don't fall for the okey doke. and so
Right.
and so that's what they're stepping out there on us right now. The old okey doke, the sleight of hand, the 3 card Molly. Where do you think your energy should best be focused on? We think right here, but no, our focus always is and should always be on the equity and equality of all humanity. That means just what the Constitution established. All of us are in this nation together, and we all should benefit from its privileges.
And that is true. And that's when we go right into the details of talking about this voting aspect. As they're looking to change, here we are again, Ms. P. And this is just my thoughts on things, especially to this voting rights and all the laws that's abiding to it and attending to contract to it, the changing of things that they're doing. Um, when we look back, if you go back sometime as reference to when George Bush Jr. was elected as the president back in say was that 2000 during that election time.
Mm-hmm.
During that election time, it was so much going on, a lot of distraction, a lot of confusion, people not understanding politics and what was happening and what was going on. Statements being made about ballots being found in the water, so many different states. Even if we look at now, they talk about ballot boxes being disappearing. No different than what was happening back then. That's why I said, when we had that conversation, I said, here we are, sleighted hand trick again, 3 card Molly. But the two parties having their terms and times to play this game. That's why I said we should have removed ourselves and separate ourselves from these particular parties long time ago. But we thinking that we had something coming from a particular party just by the way they utter words. That's why we have to be master of such words, because we don't want to be into the aspect of divisiveness and distraction and confusion. So here we find ourselves in all three trying to feel our way out of this process, and so much being dumped on us in this process as they looking to change the voting rights bill in the background. It's all types of divisiveness and distraction that's going on. Like right now, you have, of course, virus. Right now, you have Asian hate. You have it's just so much to keep us distracted from what's really at hand. And so as we focus on the voting, just the voting rights, overall, mainly for us, because now this is a positioning, because again, here we had that discussion ministry about black and white, and having these two races going on as reference to who's going to get to the finish line first, if they have the upper hand, because they're maneuvering and propagandering their aspect to move forward. But we tend to wrap ourselves up in their political game. So of course they use our brothers and sisters in the political arena to sway us in a different aspect of mindset of which way we need to really be going. Because of course, when we look at this bill, as we were discussing, the voting rights bill, like they have I believe they have some type of new name for it. I've been doing my most due diligence on to try to research, because it's very important that we understand these things, because it can get to the point where they revised it roughly about 2 years ago, and still are revising, trying to revise it. They gave it a new name, and if I'm not mistaken, they called it the Voting Rights Act Advancement John Lewis bill. And so I understand what John Lewis He was one of the um, individuals, Black individuals, that was on this uh, George Street Pettis Bridge in Alabama, where this when this atrocity happened amongst state police who trampled and forced him off this bridge. Now, he wasn't the only one. Uh, they've taken that incident and kind of paraded him around as a hero for that, as he was the only one walking across the bridge, which is the sad part on as I look at it. Um, there was many brothers and sisters on that bridge who were attacked. And just because he positioned himself into being a political figure, they used him as a pawn to trick Black folks. Instead of keeping the marching ahead forward, he kind of slowed it down with how much blood he shedded and crying about that. We know what happened. We get what happened, but the fight doesn't stop because you've gotten settled into your state of, well, we should do this and we should do such that, or we maybe shouldn't go that way. Yeah, you strategically do things, but you don't get out here and become a puppet, and to me, in that voting right bill, the advance, they call it an advancement. I'm not sure if that's a advancement as reference to a particular party and him being the face of that. And they're using that here again as another distracting tactic, as reference to for them to dig their hands into it, to give everybody a piece of the pie. Because that's how I look at it, that everybody piece of the pie is of, well, let's bring in, here's this group that's coming from southeast, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, that's 300,000 miles from within here of America, right?
Mm-hmm.
They again wanted to anchor on to our rights is what we've been fighting for. Now, I think here again, my thing is get in line and wait your turn. How I see it.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't throw shade on any other group, but at the same time, get in line and wait your turn. If you are to benefit of our fight, then you should celebrate us as such and not create this false sense of being attacked, because we don't have the power to attack Asians. We don't have the power to attack any other group for that matter, more or less trying to gain footing and power to correct this Voting Act of 1965, which here again was only solidified based on not some other fictitious group or some other created group or some fabricated group, but it was based on Black suffering here, trying to gain protection. And here they stating that, hey, this is the legislation prohibits racial discrimination. Okay, racial discrimination was based on what was happening to us. Because again, our ancestors didn't die for the voting process, because we already had the right to vote during after the point of slavery. We solidified that during that time. It was just this protection coming out now, coming after 95 years, Minister P.
Mm-hmm.
95 years after here we had the right to vote after slavery. From 1865 to 1965, it took them that long to create an act to protect us from when we went to the act, when we did want to go to the voting polls. So when we were together as a group, as Blacks, and voting the same way, we were able to position our vote and maneuver people in and out of office of who we want. Now we have Blacks over here, Blacks over there. I'm a this, I'm a that, and there's nothing getting done.
Well, let me say this: the system back then, they understood that the vote was power, and so they did not want Blacks to vote because, like you said, they could put a person in office or take a person out of office. And so when the Voters Act of 1965 came about, like you stated, it hindered racial discrimination, which is a good thing. I don't take away anything that has brought us across the floor of injustice. You know, how you get out the door one step at a time, you walk across the floor. And so we've been walking across the floor of social and racial injustice for since since the occurrence of this nation, and when we were enslaved. So we are constantly moving. The struggle is real, the fight is real. And so all of these champions that have, and I agree with you, John, John Lewis, he was not the only one on that bridge, but he definitely became a face and he became a champion. And the thing I like about all champions is they bring about awareness to those that have an ear to hear and a heart to listen, because that's the only way we're going to build up muscle, Dr. K, to continue this fight. Man, is to continue to look back in the past and see where we've come from, lift up the mantle, and continue this fight through what? Education and it, it and money, really.
Yeah.
Money and education are the two driving things that's going to make us continue to fight and win this battle.
Yeah, you're right. We definitely have to stay the course. Um, in the aspect of when we talk about the Constitution, we talk about um, platforms. Um, and you're right. I agree as reference to the champion, but again, how they if you watch John Lewis as much as I did, just paying attention, I paid a little, a lot of attention to him for the most
Hmm.
part.
Hmm.
Catching some of the things he would say, some of the stuff wasn't all the way aligned, right?
Yeah.
He got off track. Where he got off track and why, I don't know. You know, he had appeared in a voiceover in a cartoon that was talking about, this LGBT stuff, which again, that has nothing against our brothers and sisters who uh, live that lifestyle. In our own eyes, we may perceive it to be wrong in so many different ways. But to me, I look at it as a personal preference. That's your bedroom closeted preference. I have nothing to do what you do behind closed doors. Not my business. I tend to mind my own business so I can gain my own business. So what people do behind closed doors is your opinion, but it becomes a problem when you try to put it on a shelf and wholesale it to me and then commercialize it and then try to sell it to me. That's when we have an issue. I don't have an issue with if that's your plight and your platform, keep it in the closet. There's nothing to do with it. That's no different than worrying about a woman in Dubai or Afghan or somewhere in some third world country, and why their government won't let them drive a car. What does that have to do with me right here? What does that have to do with us? I'm not going to travel 4,000 miles away and I have problems right here, but I'm going to worry about a woman can't drive a car in Iran.
Let me say this. Two things. Number one, Martin Luther King said, uh, injustice anywhere affects justice everywhere. The second thing I want to bring up, Dr. K, is listen, we in this Black community, uh, uh, we have got to understand and know what the fight is all about. Listen, how can you fight if you don't know what you're fighting about? How can you fight if you don't understand the rules? How can you fight if you don't even know what it is all about? Our particular fight is strictly two things: social inequality and social equity. Those are the two things that we have been denied from day one inside of this country. That's it. That's all. Nothing outside of that referendum we just mentioned affects us as a community, because this is what we're striving for. I want my generation, my kids and their kids' generation, to have the same privileges that everybody else has in this country, and that's our fight. Nothing else. listen, if we as Black people can understand, you can't confuse me, you can't divide me, you can't throw the 3 card Molly on me, the okey doke and all that stuff, because my struggle is this 2 words: social equity and fighting against social injustice. And that's it. That's all our fight is. Now, how can we fight that? That 2 ways: through education and money. That's
Yeah,
it.
you're right. We definitely have to educate our people, not by
Like you say, the
Harvard.
marketplace.
Yeah.
See,
Not,
look, I learned this from you. Once we build up our power in the marketplace, that produces what? Money, revenue. And we always go back to what you presented earlier in these messages, the Tulsa, Oklahoma model. Once we start gravitating towards that model again, we have it. We'll have education, and then we have our economy. I mean, that's
right.
just it. Those are the 2 things, the marketplace.
Yeah, which I don't understand, Mr. P. Just as we are on this platform again, we discussed that before about how we have a new platform, right? This is a platform that's new. Of course, we're not well known, but even in the little, I would call this grassroots movement that we're doing. You would think that in that state of grassroots movement, that it would be more once the word is out there and what we're trying to accomplish um, would be that people would tend to donate to help us gravitate towards getting to a positive state to where if we did gain $500,000, here that $500,000 can do what it can either put us in a position to where we have a nice media source that we own and control,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That's
And
absolutely
two, be
correct.
able to present something that the people can really gravitate to and be able to put their um, energy into, put their 2 cents to, put their feedback into.
Absolutely.
For the
Absolutely.
most part, we don't have anything right now going. It may be a few that you can actually count on your hand as reference to Black folks having their hand in to be able to put a feedback on. If it's not the platform like we're on, it's you have everybody doing basically what we're doing, or to some degree doing, or some other distracting movement just to trying to gain popularity based on saying something. But what we're saying has a
That's it.
meaning behind it. We're not on here for
Entertainment.
entertainment purposes. None of this is entertainment. I mean, I couldn't stress that enough. I don't know it's fun to do it because again, we're doing what? Educating.
Yeah, educating.
So as far as entertainment, this is not for entertainment purposes. We're not, yeah, well, we try to have a little fun on, yeah, we want to make it fun and make it enjoyable, but the enjoyable thing is learning and educating and moving to a point to where once we resolve our issue, the
Come
problems
on
that
now.
we have,
Come on.
then we can sit down and maybe have a little fun. Even if then we still don't have too much fun because we don't want to be taken off the path of that we created to a point of problem solving. We want to
Absolutely.
stay on that problem solving path.
Dr. K, listen, your words have inspired, and this platform hasn't, because people have talked to me about it. They have said, listen, it's about learning and growing. When I learn, I can grow, and I can better my surroundings. I can better my future. I can better my generations coming up. I can better my kids, their kids, and that's called generational wealth. So yes, we need to donate to this media here so that we can grow this platform and reach hundreds, even thousands of homes throughout this network.
Yeah,
It's important. It's so
it's
important.
very important, and it helps us better to research any problems that we have out there because then now we afford ourselves the ability to be able to have a nice research team, so we don't have um, the 2, 5, 7, and 9s of your local area where you live at talking about how much crime is in the area.
Right.
You know, I mean, here they're going to tell here some other group is going to tell you how much crime in that area. Now, if they don't like you, right, one,
Right.
they're going to say whatever fits the bill. Two, well, I don't like them. Might as well say something negative.
Yeah. That's what's
And then
been
if I'm
going
gonna
on.
say something positive, it's gonna be targeted to like, well, look at this little positive segment.
Right.
And then the person, like I seen this this past week, the positive segment is supposed to have been some little African American. I'm gonna use that term just for political purposes because I don't even buy into that African American term either, because anybody can be an African in America. Right. We went over that. we talked about that. And we give a little example of another particular race moving to Africa for several years and then come back here. What did that consist of as?
African American.
Okay, so that's why I don't use the term. Okay, so moving on. So looking at this segment on Channel 9, Chicago, WGN, I'm putting them out there. I don't give a shit. Sorry, Mr. P. But it gets frustrating at times. You gotta see this stuff and you looking at it. And I'm like, what was the purpose? So any other time they, shooting here, shooting there, shooting here, shooting there. Then he come a segment where they quote unquote positive. And then who's the face of it? Now they took these young black children in Inglewood.
Mm-hmm.
And but see what it portrays is that we're not doing anything for our own. That's what it's saying. Because you'll have a ignorant minded Negro to say, well, we ain't doing nothing. Really? Or have you even thought to do anything? And yes, we are people. When you hear this, we are doing something. And this is part of what we're doing, as you see now, and even behind the scenes. But I ain't the one to get on the soapbox to tell every Negro what I'm doing. If it's to know some business, get you some business.
Right.
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 So I'm looking at this segment. They saying, well, they're making boats. One, I was uncomfortable with the making of a boat because that only brings back some remnants. Now, here's knowing these children not knowing their history. Well, let me teach them how to make their own boat.
Mm-hmm.
Where we going? Where we going? Why do I need? It's a nice skill. Don't get me wrong, great skill to have on making a boat. But at the same time, that didn't sit right with me. This boat making. Two, didn't sit right with me. Here you put a face that you wanted to put on. Here's a Caucasian man. Well, they're learning a great skill on how to create this boat. Skill that they never learned. Here's a skill of boat making and wood craftsmanship that they took out the high schools, political mayors and of Chicago. This is stuff they took out of high school. Yeah. So it fits so fitting to give this man $1 million for his organization to go teach an underprivileged child how to make a boat. See how easy that is?
And they got a grant for that.
Yeah. Got all types of grant money for that. But let me go and try to do it. Oh, well, we're not sure. And I don't know. And they want to see everything, every dot, every T crossed, everything. Yeah. I can't just easily go and boom, let me teach you how to do. So here again, people, these are the issues that we, when we put out platforms and we asking to donate, it's not for fun. It's not for gain or glory. We're looking so we can do things with our own. We can fix the problems that we have in our community. Yeah. There would be no possible, as they call it, conspiracy theorists talking points that everybody uses. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. I say anything's possible to do. And you can see it out in the world. The evidence is going out there and looking. So anybody can put a false propaganda as reference to this quote unquote black on black crime. That's like me and you, Minister P. Every time I see you, I'm going to commit a crime. And we know that's not a true statement.
Right.
So, we have to be careful as reference to how things is portrayed out in society as reference to, as we get back on track talking about the Voting Rights Act, which has been, flipped around and volleyballed across around the country. And to bring a point to that, Minister P, we have to stay the course and stay on that. And my thing is, even if coming up in the next election, I won't be the one. And I told you this before. And for so many times since we've had um, Barack Hussein Obama, uh, insane more like to me. They give you this first black president. That's not true. But if you know history, he wasn't the first black president.
Mhm.
If you do the history, see, that's part of history they don't want you to know about. But see, they give you that so to guide you towards a party. We'll say Democratic Party for the most part, who that party more or less who was the ones who enslaved the Confederate South were who what? They were Democrats. For the most part, some of them are still Democrat, but they flip. Now they done flip flop because they say, well, we can go Republican because that's perceived more to be more what conservative.
Mhm. Yeah.
So Democrats of today would say, well, I'm of the North now. Okay, but what are you really about? Are you one coming up with a long edged sword to stab me in the back? I don't need to be stabbed in the back. I told you before, Mr. P. If I'm gonna see it coming, I want to see it coming. Don't play the 3-card Molly. Don't play the sleight of hand trick. What knife? What knife? I don't
Right,
have a
right.
knife.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful. I'll say it in any next political. I'm not going to be aligned with any because any politician can be bought. So I'll align myself. I told you as far as statistically, if you look, you have more people who are independent than they are connected to either of these parties. Why? Because there's no interest. That's whether it's white or black. Most people don't have an interest in these two parties because it seems like there's no movement. So it's a tug of war between these two.
Well, it is, and it always has been. And the struggle is for power and influence and who can fall under their influence and under their power. But what we must do is educate ourselves on, I keep going back to this, educate ourselves on our own cause and our own needs. Once we realize what it is that we need
Mhm.
as a body of people, as a community going forward, then we can understand how to get those needs satisfied. It's like the married couple who went to the marriage counselor and they said, well, we got problems. And the counselor said, well, to the husband, well, what is it that you need? Well, yeah, I don't know. And he said to the wife, well, what is it that you need? Well, I'm not sure. Well, then why are you sitting in front of me? So because you don't understand your own needs, how do you expect him to satisfy those needs or her to satisfy your needs? So we as a Black people must come together and understand, first of all, what it is our needs are, and then once we find out what those needs are, speak with one voice and get those needs satisfied. And understand this, brothers and sisters, we're not speaking for ourselves. We're speaking for our future generations coming. It's called generational wealth. The system knows all about it. Now we have to know all about it. It's called generational wealth. And I'm going to go back to what you said, Dr. K. Listen, stop pointing the finger. What are you doing to these people? All these naysayers, what are you doing? Yeah, it's good. You can criticize somebody, and shoot somebody down. But what are you doing? Are you just being a monitor? There's a problem. There's a problem. But we don't need monitors no more. We need action. So we need you to get your little monitoring self educated, get yourself a fix inside of a marketplace, a platform to start giving the truth out to the Black community so we can become edified, empowered, and encouraged to move forward. And that's what our struggle is all about.
Yeah, we have to, I'm gonna come up with a new term, Mr. P, and we may have to create a t-shirt for it and get it so everybody can understand. No more Negroism.
All right, break down that terminology right there.
So
Dr.
Negro
K.
is Negroism, of course, meaning that the system of a Negro, having the Negro mindset. You know how people say, well, Negro, you done lost your mind. Having that mindset, to me, that Negroism is the pointing the finger. What you doing? What you doing?
Right,
Here
right,
we're talking about it, but Negroism is they're saying to me, to another Negro, but I'm pulling myself from the Negroism, saying, well, asking me what am I doing? Well, you see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, are we tired of talking? Sure. But that talking point we still have to educate. Does get tiresome, but we still have to continue to educate.
We got
Because
to.
if we don't do it, who will?
Who will? And here's the question. Here's the answer to that. Nobody.
Exactly. Nobody's going to do it. We've gotten into a comfort zone to letting somebody do. That's why I say we get off into. We want something. We're looking for somebody to do something for us. That's no different than if something falls on the floor and spills. It's just gonna sit there, right? No intimate, as we know, Minister P. You and I well know that Jesus ain't gonna come down and clean it up for you.
No, you're
Right.
gonna do it yourself.
Right. God ain't gonna clean it up for you. The Holy Spirit ain't gonna clean it up for you. You got to get your butt up and clean the mess up yourself. Yeah, you get into the strength and all of that. I get that, but that's you moving and doing it yourself.
Right. Now, coming from me, my aspect, of course, God will give you wisdom, and Jesus will give you knowledge. The Holy Spirit will give you power to do that, but you have to do it. A person came to me the other day and said, "Oh, Mr. P, we're waiting on the Black leaders." I said, "Stand up right now. Go to that mirror and look in that mirror. Who do you see? Me. You're the Black leader. Don't you dare look around. Get yourself in front of that doggone mirror. Get yourself educated. Get in the marketplace and spread the wealth and the knowledge of this progressiveness that the Black movement has right now. We are in a struggle. We are in a fight. And if we sit down and go to sleep on the couch, guess what? You're going to wake up with Jim Crow laws all around you.
Sure will. That goes right into here. We going what they put out, Department of Justice. It's the government. Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. When Congress, here's somebody doing something for you. I mean, of course, it's one thing to force a hand for somebody who perceived to have the power, quote unquote. So sometimes you have to force the hand of somebody doing something. Said they said they was going to do something and they're not going to do it. You got to force the hand. So when Congress enacted the Voting Rights Act of 1965, it determined that racial discrimination in voting had been more prevalent in certain areas of the country. Section 4A of the Act established a formula to identify those areas and to provide for more stringent remedies where appropriate. The first of these targeted remedies was a 5-year suspension of the test or device, such as a literacy test as a prerequisite to register to vote. So it's listen to that. You had to actually take a test. That's what the stuff they put in place for us. It means you take a test and figure out if you can vote or not. So if you were a Negro slave, maybe possibly at that time, or even up until the point at that time in certain areas of the South and even the North, they put this in front of you. Well, if he can't read good and not have the basic standard of society education, he'll surely fail that test. So now, hey, well, just won't be able to vote. The second was the requirement for review under Section 5 of any change affecting voting made by a covered area, either by the United States District Court for the District of Columbia or by the Attorney General. The third was the ability of the Attorney General to certify that specific jurisdictions also required the appointment of federal examiners. These examiners will prepare and forward list of persons qualified to vote. The final remedy under the special provision is the authority of the Attorney General to send federal observers to those jurisdictions that have been certified for federal examination. So here again, my brothers and sisters, if we understood the basics of this, and how this works and how we play a part in this process of the Voting Rights Act. We've always had the right to vote. So if you don't go vote, that's just your right.
Since 1865.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't go vote, again, that's your privilege. Because if you don't go vote, it's not at the point of you not voting, not having the knowledge. You just choose not to because you don't deem fit that persons who's running is qualified enough. But that's why it's beneficial to say, well, if I do vote, I'm not just going to do here's that talk. And it's sad that hear this term, Minister P. You know who I heard this term coming from? Mostly
What is it?
us. Here's the term. Us now. Well, that's a lesser of two evils.
That's a what?
The lesser of two evils.
Oh, that's a two evil.
I've heard only us making that statement. And then when you study both the candidates, wherever you're looking at, both of them are evil. Like one is less than the other. They both the same. They're both the same. There's no such thing as a lesser of two evils. Evil, as we say, law is law, right?
Yep.
Evil is evil. There's no lesser of the two evils. So you have lesser of two evils. If you're saying, well, both of them are evil, then I choose neither one. That's when I turn to say, well, what else can I do if I have two evil individuals that's staring me down? There's something, there surely has to be something else. Surely has to be something else that I can do.
You know what? Listen, just like we are a ground root movement, progressively getting better and better, brothers and sisters, as you donate to KTSE Media, we're getting stronger and stronger. But we are a ground root movement. We now, as a people, a Black community, must start a ground root movement and put Black leaders in positions to speak our voice for our particular situation and circumstances. And when we start doing that, putting in people who speak our voice because they understand our struggle, because they come from our community, when we put people like that in place, then we start gaining even further and quicker political ground and power.
Yeah, we have to solidify. If we're the only one in the country that has, at one point we had the political statistical power. That's for reference to the voting process. And then here comes, of course, other people pouring into the country to challenge us because we didn't lock it. Had we locked and boxed what we perceived as community,
Right.
it wouldn't me and Minister P can be on here for entertainment purposes. It can be other platforms for other entertainment purposes.
Yeah, I like that. Right.
You know, if you just look at that, Ministry, just think about that. We wouldn't need to be on this platform.
Right.
Right. It'd be other things that we can really focus on. We wouldn't have to have
I could start my career in jokes. I like a lot comedians.
We could be joking more. But now as you look around,
serious.
Everybody joking, but no serious work going on. And I get it. Yeah, they're doing it for, you want to, this is how I work. This is how I survive. I get that. But if you joking all the time and you ain't putting forth no effort to bring about a change, and you just, again, the joking aspect, Minister P, of course, goes back as far as the days of the medieval, as they call them, times. Medieval, of course, is a different type of word. But in any case, the court gesture. We shouldn't, when we court gesture, it should be amongst ourselves and things that's been happening. But now we start court gesturing for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody don't perceive it as the same as we're looking at it. We're looking at it and say, "Oh yeah, that happened to me. I got a good laugh out of that one because I've been through it." some other group or cultural group or the other race won't see us as such. They'll be like laughing, but they ain't laughing with you. They're laughing at you.
Come on. Come on. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to pay attention to that for sure. So, I strive to be able to deal with this aspect of this whole voting process. We definitely have to pay close attention and keep our eye on this, because if we don't, we definitely lose our footing on what we're trying to put in perspective as something just to gear us in the process of creating our own political party. We should. I don't know why we haven't done so. Which as much problems that we've had, it boggles my mind to this day, Mr. Why our prior aspect of ancestry, anybody that looked like us, they hadn't created their own particular party. I mean, you've had some people try, but nobody. You see how we didn't get wrapped up into it. We got distracted by other things instead of saying, well, that's just like the example I gave you. Here's I'm gonna break it all the way down, just as simple, Minister B, so everybody who's watching can understand the simplicity. It's not saying that our people are simple, but I'm gonna break it down as far as so I don't have to go using all the political high terms, so everybody can understand. So here's how this works: is creating my own political party and say, okay, right now here's what we have. We have LeBron James in the Lakers uniform. He's going to put up 50 points tonight, right? And he does that, right? But here's the kicker. This is how divided we are right now. And the Lakers were playing the New Jersey Brooklyn Nets. We'll say the Brooklyn Nets. I'm sorry, New Jersey Nets. I'm going back.
Yeah.
So the Brooklyn Nets. So they're playing the Brooklyn Nets, and LeBron put up 50. But wait a minute. No, LeBron, remember you said you wanted for everybody, and you wanted to try to pull this in for other teams. Well, the other team is the Brooklyn Nets, so your 50 points counts for the Brooklyn Nets. But you were in a Laker uniform. Now tell me, Minister B, all I would say, how much sense does that make?
Absolutely zero.
Okay. So that's how we playing.
Yeah.
We're putting up 50 points, but playing for the other team.
Well, it goes back to, listen, us not understanding our own needs. Once we identify our own needs, what does the Black man need? What does the Black woman need? What does a Black family need in today's society? Once we identify that in a universal language and definition, then we will have a direction. We will start understanding that, yeah, we need to push further our own agenda. And whether that means forming a political party or putting officials in offices that we have the power to do right now, that speak our universal language, we'll start understanding that. But right now, the definition of our struggle has to get out there. See, listen, you have to know you're sick.
You're right.
You have to know that you're not feeling well, because other than that, oh, I'm okay. But you got, let me put it in today's society, you got to know you just got shot in the leg. See, you walking around, I'm not feeling too great. Well, my brother, blood is coming down your leg because you just got shot. Oh, I wasn't aware I got shot. I knew I wasn't feeling good. Well, we must become aware that we're not feeling good as a people, and blood is coming down our leg, and so we've been shot. Now we have to understand that, and we have to define what our struggle is. We really do. We have to define what our struggle is and how it affects us. And once we do that, man, once I get a definition, I'm with it. See, why? Because I just got educated. I just got hip to the game. I got the understanding now, and that's what's missing, Dr. K.
Yeah, the understanding is missing as reference to how we take a look at things, and that's the education process of educating our people to understand the aspect of what's going on around us. You know, the three car Molly game, as you put it in the space, what's been played on us,
Right.
and we don't
It
have an
is.
understanding what's happening. So we definitely have to pay more attention to if that game is going to be played in your mind. You have to pinpoint like what's important out of that. What's important out of that? What's matter of fact? What's the purpose of the game being played in the first place? What's the purpose behind it?
Mm.
That's what we have to pay attention to. What's the purpose behind the game that's being played? And if we can get that down to a science, we definitely will be on target. We definitely will be on target. And, you know, I'm an advocate of that as reference to us being able to pay attention, pay attention to detail. Paying attention to detail is very key. Very key. So yeah, so I'm definitely all for that. Paying attention to the game that's being played and what is the overall purpose of it. Because if we don't have a sense of overall purpose in reference to the game, then we will lose sight. We definitely lose sight of where we're going as a people, as a culture. We lose culture. We lose our culture as we have lost our culture. We really haven't had one. Moreover, but we've created a sense of culture, and we try to make that be our new sense of a culture. But then, when you look at it in that voting rights bill, we're giving that up. You know, the 14th and 15th Amendment is what is how you establish the Voting Rights Act of 1965. That's what it stands. That's what it's based on. But it's just that act is more of a protection clause, which again, you would think the Constitution would have been enough. But they put it out there to say, hey, look, whoa, hey, hold on. We got this Protection Act, so stop attacking the Negro. He's protected now. It took 95 years for that to happen. 95. And then you see now, I don't know what has much changed in that. You don't see what much has changed out of that whole process. So, and looking at that, Minister P, we definitely, I'm about resolving things, resolving issues. And if I got something that's at hand, a project, I want to try to complete it as best as I can. I'm trying to get out of the aspect of not completing. It's one thing, the things happen and it puts a semi barrier in front of you, but we have to get it to the point where we are looking to complete projects. We got to get back up. We got to get away from when we present a project to someone, because I've ran into that over the last year or so. People, like I said, we're talking about donating. They want to see blueprints. They want to see your shoe size, your belt size, how you get there, where are you going? I need this and I need that. It's like, hey, it's a project that's in place that I'm trying to complete. So we got these isms flowing back and forth. The Negroism. The Negroism has to stop. It's reference to, well, we got to hear from, I need to see everything, or well, how many meetings we gonna have before we get to where I can donate, or even one person trying to carry the load. We got to get out of that too. We stuck in that LeBron James, Michael Jordan mode of like he's gonna carry the team.
Right. Right.
We all have to be the carry. That's the only way we're gonna get to the finish line. We all have to carry. Everybody got to carry their own load.
Listen, it's like a relay race. Everybody plays a part. I hand it off to you, you hand it off to the next person. We're all in this race. What about if I hand it off to you, you just stop? That's not going to work. One of the things, though, I want to applaud you for, Dr. K, is that your bravery to establish this ground root movement that both educates and informs the Black community of where we are. That's why we look at this. That's the name of this platform. Look at this. Look at what's around us. So I applaud you for being brave enough to even establish that. And I want our hearers and listeners, brothers and sisters, to understand these donations, whether they're $5, $10, even larger, $100. Listen, all of this is going to enlarge this platform so that we can get the word out to a greater number of brothers and sisters. So this is why it's so important. We must grow and we must build and we must enlarge so that we can get the word out. This is not playtime. There's other things that we could be doing with our time, but we are giving this time period out to our community and so that we can enlarge and grow our self-worth. Listen, do you understand what you are worth? If you start understanding what you are worth, then you will realize, listen, then I'm much more than what the media says I am. I'm much more than what some narrative said against me. I'm much more than that. So we are establishing that through this type of platform that you have established, Dr. K, and I applaud you for that.
Thank you so much. We definitely gonna keep rolling, Mr. P. We on live, and I invite people to tune in. If you can't tune in, if you're not able to tune in, see our beautiful faces. More than welcome. Or if you are tuning in, you are hearing us on KTSE Media Radio. You are tuning into Let's Look at This, and we will be with you for the next 40 minutes at this point, because we've been rolling. I lost track of time, so I just pushed us right into we might as well stay on the platform right now. I just pushed us right into the into going live on the race. So we are live, ladies and gentlemen, and we are definitely looking to educate and teach, and looking forward to when we start to actually hear. We definitely want to start hearing from the community at some point, and hearing from our people. We're again here with a new platform. We're not popular faces at this point, so and not looking to be really popular, but look to be, instead of popular, I want to be a problem solver. I'm not looking for popularity, because popularity it's up one while and it's down the next. So I'm not really looking at the popularity aspect of things, because it's not going to bring me. It may bring me some form of some fame or fortune, but then as I get much older than I am, and I look back, now I got to look at the legacy and the teaching aspect of what was left behind for a generation that looks like me to benefit from, or even any, at this point, we'll say any generational aspect for them to learn from this process. We have to learn from the mistake that was put into place. And what we're doing now is a form of corrective action. We're in a state of emergency of corrective action right now, because we have so much gesturing, I call it court gesturing, that's going on. So much entertainment, everybody doing stuff for entertainment purposes, and nobody stresses that they're not doing it for entertainment. They're just on there, and they're saying stuff to pat themselves on the back of what they've accomplished. I say, even if we went from today from a $1 to $1 trillion to tomorrow, it's my word message wouldn't change. it's not going to change because I would say, well, this platform has gained so much, and then we have to look back and say, what did we leave behind as a platform, and what did other people benefit? How did they
That's it.
benefit from what
That's
we
it.
left behind, or even still continue to move on? What is anybody benefiting from it? How are we benefiting from it in ourselves? What do we have to gain? My thing is to gain a point of a legacy that I'm at least in my mind I could be proud of, that somebody is able to benefit from it. As far as monetary gain, if there is a monetary gain, it'll be more or less to help, keep this platform moving.
Hmm. That's it.
A percentage of it will be help to uh, livelihood for self, so I can keep self health and wealth going to work the process. And then thirdly, is to create a other platform for other people who does have other knowledge and expertise in other areas, that they can be on this platform to bring something, a legacy for, that somebody can benefit from. Purpose is to make our people to be able to benefit from this process.
Now, if we that just heard that explanation of that vision don't understand how positive and progressive that vision is, listen, you need to go back and redefine the word. This is exactly what it is all about, to produce a rich legacy of knowledge that will edify, empower, and encourage us now and then our future generations. One of the things our colleague Jay Reese always says is this: we're trying to find solutions. We're trying to find the solutions. And in order, let me extend that, in order to find the solutions, we must understand the problem. We must understand our struggle. We must understand our fight. It must be defined so that we can all have the same mind, which produces the same movement, which will produce the same benefits that everybody else has. And that's what it's all about. It's all about equality and equity.
Yeah, definitely that equality and equity in this process. Even though we perceive it as equality and equity, the equality, definitely need the equity part about it. Equality, we would like things to be equally across the playing field. Of course, you and I both know it's not. And then at some point, um, you know, in this aspect of, because what we're in now is a race. So usually there is no, yeah, you can have a tie, but it's still, that still doesn't make you equal. But I would say equality last, and then the equity be first, because, and that's just my own perception of it. Because we know, as we talk about law, Minister P, uh, that scale never seems to balance out like it's supposed to with Lady Justice. It's usually supposed to be an equally balanced as reference to justice, but uh, yeah, that always tend to take a back seat to how we look at the equality aspect of it. So, as reference to our understanding of it, Minister P is reference to this equals voting process when you talk about equality. Now, we have the right, that has given us the right, of course, the aspect after slavery, given us the right to vote who we wanted to vote for. But you would think, I would say equality and equality amongst self first. We have to get our equality amongst
Come on
ourselves
now.
fast. That way we can get to a point of to where we are balanced out as a people, because of course, you and I both know we have some uh, negative anchors out there that's connected to us, So we have to cut those negative anchors, that can come in all forms, shapes, and sizes. When you're talking about the negative aspect of, I would say, then that goes back to the divisive aspect about people being divisive. We talk about um, the divisiveness amongst us. You have there's so many aspects that we're not equal in the aspect of, as far as groups. It's a lot of tribalism that's going on that we have, which is actually, to me, is keeping us from solidifying power. And as reference to what we're talking about, the voting aspect, that to me is pushing us away from that divisiveness, is pushing us away from the equality aspect, because we are equal. We're divided. We're unequally yoked in that aspect when it comes to voting, because none of us have a direct aspect of where we're going. So it's placed us in a position to be divisive against each other. We have, like I said, we have different type of groups. We can call them out: the ghetto, the bourgeoisie. There's so many type of names that we have amongst ourselves that keeps us from being equal or unifying amongst each other.
And Dr. K, yeah, I've been trying to think about this from a psychological point of view. Why is that divisiveness there? What is the root psychologically? What is the root of it? And I've come down with one component, and it is fear. That componency of fear of losing, fear of losing. I go back to the model type of Tulsa, Oklahoma, when every Black person had the same agenda. They had the same mind. They had the same energy. They had the same model in mind. But then when they lost it, they lost it. And so it produced a certain fear, because they realized, will we ever regain this again? And instead of struggling and regaining in unity, we struggled and gained yours over here, yours over there. I got mine, you got, and then there's the fear of losing even that. And so it prevents us from bringing us together in unity because of that fear factor. But if we can just get past that fear factor and say, look, together, what's that old thing? Together, everybody achieves more. Well, it is true that teamwork again can bring about that unity if we have the same mind and same movement. One of the things I want to bring up, if I can read the 14th Amendment, and people may say, well, you all are always reading the 14th Amendment. Yeah, we need to understand this. We need to understand this language that has produced a framework for the country that you live in. Hello. And so the 14th Amendment says this. The 14th Amendment was originally passed to provide federal protection for the rights of individuals freed from slavery by the 13th Amendment, the so-called Civil War Amendment to the Constitution ratified in 1868, shortly after the Civil War ended, which guarantees that all persons born in any state of the United States are citizens of that state and of the United States, and are guaranteed the privileges and immunities due to citizens of the United States, to due process and equal protection under the law. So, like you said, we had the right to vote. And this is so good that it's brought out this way. We had the right to vote, you all, in 1965, was it? 1865. Thank you, Dr. K. That's why he's the historian. Listen, so in 1865, and so we have here the 14th Amendment that says now we can be free of discrimination to vote. That's all that's saying.
Yep. And like, again, when you correlate that and do the homework on it, you'll get a better understanding that 1860, the 1965 Voting Rights Act was put into place due to the divisiveness of society that was happening in so many places.
Mhm.
To where, as I just read, you taking a test, they blocking you from the voting. Because again, most blacks say, well, if I'm in this community, I could surely, or if I'm connected, I don't have to be living in the same community. But if I'm connected to that community and living on the other side of the tracks,
Right.
I still want, I'm not getting the same due process as this individual on the other side who's
Absolutely.
getting all the due process. So, so we definitely have to pay much attention to that, and get an understanding of those. That's basically the Constitution. Most people ignore it. Most people ignore the Constitution. They don't even pay any attention to it. We've had for a long time ignored the Constitution.
Yes, because they don't think that it relates to them in any shape or form. But listen, it does. And once you understand uh, its its limits towards us, then we can understand now what our struggle and what our fight is all about.
Right, right, right. We people. We definitely have to pay attention. Yeah, as children coming up to understanding the Constitution and having to take that test in the eighth grade, most state.
Remember that?
Yeah. We you see the whoever taught it, it was only, yeah, it was good to, but they really never focused on the educational process of that Constitution. We didn't, most teachers didn't go into detail
Right.
of the Constitution. They just went through and said, okay, remember this and remember that, and read it and
Well,
understand
to
it.
me, none of them did. None of
You're
them.
right. Right, right,
None of them did that, and that's where the harm came in. We didn't understand how it applied to us.
right.
How what were the limitations and what were the cause and effects
Hmm.
and the dynamics of that. It was never taught, and
No.
that was by purpose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I believe it to be by design that they didn't teach it
Yeah,
for
by
a
design.
reason. Because
Yeah.
I mean, surely you would think that, okay, if this child has a mindset or the understanding of it, you would think that if I'm going to teach this in America now, we'll just say I'm just giving a starting point. You would think that should have started maybe somewhere in about the sixth grade to start going into it. Even if you're giving it some of uh, the basics of the Constitution. So, well, we're going to go over the basics now, and then by the time you get to the eighth grade, you know, most of you should have some type of understanding of why this document existed in this country. Which now is that's all we face with now. Now you can choose to live under a rock and ignore it, but then when you get affected by so many things, that's where you do yourself a great disservice.
Come on, Dr. K. Listen, right now we just opened up a can because that was by design, a systemic design by the educational system in place
Mhm.
to subvert and keep that type of information under the radar. And uh, so we skimmed over the surface. In other words, we were surfing. I don't know, have you ever went surfing before? But when you surf, you're on top of the waves. You
Yeah.
don't go deep at all.
No, you don't.
There's nothing deep there. You're just skimming. It's
Yep.
just like you're surfing the channels with so and that's the mindset that has happened because man, just think how many critical thinkers we would have had if it was taught in depth.
Yeah.
Oh, come
Yeah.
on, come on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If that had been taught in depth and how that applied to now us now,
Yeah.
even if you go into the African American history, as far as taking class courses on it. They didn't really discuss as far as the effects and and what was and how the Constitution was amended for us, just for us. Now, wasn't no other group, the bow-legged, the this and it wasn't amended for those groups.
Right.
It was amended for us.
But that's it. That's it.
And you're right. It was never, that process is never carried over properly to me. Even today's times, this process is still not carried over in how the Constitution has an effect on blacks in this society.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how it is supposed, and how it more or less supposed to benefit, and what the benefits we supposed to get out of it. It's supposed to be some type of beneficial aspect out of it, because when you start going back and
You would
forth,
say supposed to.
yeah, when you start playing around in this law and start getting dabbled up, and you got to go to court and this and that, what you face with?
Yeah.
The Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah. And the due process. And then
due process.
Your eyes,
right.
Yeah, your eyes become awakened then.
Yeah. Now it's like, oh, I gotta go read up. Look, right. It's sad, Minister P. I just had somebody ask me about this law book.
Yeah.
There was, I wouldn't say they were against it, but they really wasn't focused on it. When they had a situation come arise, like, oh, do you have that law book? I said, oh, and I didn't want to, I ain't the one. I hate that I told you so. I don't do that, Mr. I don't do that. But in my mind, I'm like, look at this. I said, now I talked to them about this, and wasn't really trying to drill this into their mind. Right. But I just say, well, hey, it's important that you maybe should get one, or well, that ain't my worry. I don't have to worry about that. Oh, okay. That's all I said was okay. I didn't go no further. I didn't ridicule them for not being able to get themselves wrapped up into it. I just said, okay.
Listen, but I want to tell everybody that's listening now, it pays to invest in this book. Have it for your own library. Listen, if you need to find out where you can find it at, that's the man right there, Dr. K. He has all the knowledge about getting this, but get it for your own personal library and go through it at your own personal leisure, because there may be a time when you actually need this for a case. But other than that, just to educate yourself, just to educate your family, just to educate your generation, your facility, your church, home, whatever. You need this book. But why? Because this is the definition of the framework of laws inside the country that you live in. We're not talking about outside. We're talking about the place you live in. And its boundaries are enormous because it affects you wherever you go. You think it doesn't, but it does. Laws affect you. Understand what they're all about. Like getting this dictionary.
Yeah, that law dictionary is it's an influence, great influence. It's the 7th edition. You can pick this up at Amazon. I'm not promoting anyone who wrote, but I mean it's a very beneficial book to have, because it gives you the some of the things that you need to maybe look at, and as far as that may affect you. There's benefits in this, in understanding and getting that getting the law book in your possession. So I would say you would do yourself a disservice if you do not get it, because it's the latest edition. It's last revised of it was 2016. So they if they were to revise something, it may not be for some time, but of course there's other research tools, but to have something right at hand that you can go to.
You're right.
You can see mine is worn out. Look at it. Right. I done referred to it so much. I got it highlight. Look at that. See? Mine is actually almost falling apart. Look, it's all worn.
Well, you've been using it. You've been using it. So yeah, we want everybody to get a copy of that. Um, Dr. K,
Mhm.
so can we talk a little bit about I was looking at the news today and it was talking about the 18 uh, states that have passed 30 new laws making it difficult to vote, or it's called restricting voting laws. So 18 states, um, which are Republican led states, they have passed 28 new laws that are making it difficult and harder for the minority to vote. Uh, for example, to vote absentee, to vote by mail, uh, to early vote, um, and Sunday vote, and so forth and so on. And those 18 states, if I can just call them out, are Arizona, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, Indiana, Montana, Texas, Atlanta, that's surprising,
Mhm.
Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nevada, Louisiana, and a little state up there called Maine.
Okay, so now let's go into that. 'Cause I read that. I'm glad you brought it up because I read that. And the understanding of that to me and and why this is happening. And when when we talked about, that's why I brought that term of minority. Now, when we remove ourselves, because I'm not going to call myself a minority because I'm not that. I'm unique, right? I'm
Right.
original. So I don't conform to I don't know what a minority is because I got power in self and I have power in what I'm doing. May not have power in the system, but it'll soon change. It'll soon change.
All
So
right.
I don't I stay away from the minority term. So who that minority when you look more deep into that word minority, why this is happening and why that has happened with these laws being in place because you have an influx. And I invite people to go out and do the research. Please do. Please go out and study. You ain't got to research. Go out and study this. There's been an influx of when you say surprising Atlanta, but the influx of immigrants coming into the country. Now that and when you look and you really and I looked at it and studied it closely. I said, now here we are already really under the protection of the Voting Rights Act bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
As blacks, we're already under that protection in the 14th and 15th Amendment. Now, conservative, if they're going to give you something, it's going to be a small percentage of something. Now, what I can credit them for would be that. Yeah, that's doesn't those laws that they put in place don't affect it doesn't affect us, right? We'll still you and I still be able to do the early voting, but here again, when we start getting off our soapbox or our we're on we're on the problem solving platform, right?
Absolutely.
And we're on the problem solving train. As soon as we jump off track and say, well, let me go help those, as I told you, the analogy of I'm going now, I got my own problems, but let me stop my problem solving and then go try to help some other group. Main thing for this group is just to, cease and desist and stand by to say, well, hey, that problem solving train is already in motion. Now, if I choose to, I can get on that train and get behind these people who are already on the platform of problem solving. Then we can we can work together in the process of getting rid of these laws that's in place. But the purpose of these laws, the early voting out, that has nothing to do That's why a lot of these states is blocking it, because you have an influx of immigrants, or more immigrants coming into the country. And that perceived to be a problem to these states, because they say, well, now they just voting anybody in. Now, again, that if we had our stuff, like I said before, if we had our ship tighter, our communities tighter and locked, those laws wouldn't even, they can come up with 1,000. It wouldn't affect us in any way, because we have a certain way that we vote, we have a certain way that we move. But in the process of that, they talking about minorities. My thing is, who they see, they don't break down who the minority is. They just throw the term out there. That's why I say we have to be masters of words. Because when you see minority, that's sad that we equate ourselves to that, meaning that I ain't no better than that. One, I'm not a minor. Let's just put that out there. I'm not a minor, so why would I consider myself to be a minority? And I get what you're saying as far as about the minority, as far as how that plays out, as far as the power wise, but we're not minorities when it comes to the voting aspects. Are we?
Well, this is why and because they know that, this is why they're trying to make laws that make it harder for let's say Black folks to vote. For instance, now they're coming up with in these states that you have to have additional identification. They're trying to restrict voting hours on Sundays to
Right.
during the hours that you're at church.
Right. We talked. I've read that. We talked about, we talked about the aspect of some of those, but then here again, when you start paying close attention, again, that still has nothing to do with us, as far as because that's more or less going along with these immigrants born into the country that look like us. That's how that's playing out. And they wanted to provide more identification. Now they're trying to link that to us, but it has nothing to do with us at all. I mean, we have no aspect in reference to how that plays out. And that's what I say. Even reading that, you pay attention to how it's reading. It's a lot of, again, confusion in it. One. So it's not really specifying. That's why they use the term minority, because so in that case, who else can be a minority? Minister Pete, name me who else can be a minority other than Black people, since we calling ourselves that. Who else can be a minority?
Well, I'm not sure, but who?
White women can be minorities. You can have any group out here that can be a minority. Why? Here's the Google definition. I'm just going along with Google, and I'm gonna go with three. I'm gonna find three other sources of definition. One, I'm gonna use Google. A smaller number or part, especially a number that is less than half the whole number. That's a minority. One definition. One definition. Two, a state or period of being under the age of a full legal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Google definition of minority. Now we're gonna go to Britannica. Culturally or ethnically. See how all these see how you have to be masters of words, because everybody coming with their terminology of what they think it means. The Britannica definition, stating that culturally, ethnically, or racially distinct group that coexists with but is suboriented to more dominant group. You can equate it to that, but I don't see myself. I perceive myself to be special, unique, something other than that. Because if I think that I'm a low sub-oriented group, that's how I'm going to react. I'm not going to react with a movement of power. I'm not going to move, as an older friend of mine says, we have to move from a position of strength.
Right.
Not going along with these made terms. Now that's Britannica. I'm gonna go with one last one. And he goes the Webster definition. A period before attainment of a majority. 1A. 1A. 1B, the state of being a legal minor. 2, the smaller number of two groups constituting a whole. 3A, a part of the population differing from others in some characteristics as often subject to differential treatment. 3B, a member of a minority group. So when we put ourselves in categories as such, then we proceed to think as such. So there's other people that can be considered to be minorities. So when you start attaching, if we keep attaching ourselves to that, that's how we lose out. That's just like when they give out. Here was an example of a scholarship fund that was given out.
Mm-hmm.
It stated in the terms that minorities and people of color and African Americans can apply. Those were the 3 statements. Why would they put all 3 in one? If that perceived as a we'll say Black scholarship, then it should go to a Black person, right?
Right.
But look at the 3 confusing terms: African American, that anybody can be; minority, that anybody can be; or person of color. Who is that? That's some term they just threw out there on somebody.
Right.
Who is that? I don't know who that is. That would be my question. Who is the African American? Because that can be anybody. I mean, point me out who that is. That's why we have to be mindful of these terms, using these minority terms and all these different terms. We have to pay attention to all those terms, because if it's a benefit that's out there, here comes somebody else that's not even supposed to get it, that's gonna get it. Not even supposed to get this benefit now, but they said, well, I'm a minority.
Because
wait a minute.
Right.
I'm a minority.
They have looked at that word and understood it, and how they can apply it to themselves and their people group. Look, they educated themselves, okay? But I want to talk just a little more about these 18 states that have passed these 30 laws that are making it more difficult for Blacks to vote. In these particular states, they did something that was just, to me, so obvious. Listen, in these Black regions and communities where there were 2 or 3 or even more mail-in drop-off boxes, now the law restricts it to 1. And that is so far from the Black community. The driving there is hard. It's restricted. They have shortened the time that you can put in your mail-in ballot. And in this last election, it was historic, the early voting by the Black community. Now they have shortened the hours that you can early vote. They have restricted that. And so these attempts by these 17 states to restrict the voting rights of the Black community is just overwhelmingly obvious.
Well, here again, Mr. Pete, that doesn't hinder us from. I mean, the hours, okay, fine, but that still
harder.
doesn't. It makes it harder. So yeah, it may make it harder, but it still doesn't stop you from voting. To again, what are we protected under?
Yeah, yeah. But absolutely, you're absolutely
We
correct. But
still protect it.
here's the thing that we must not overlook, that it is a overt move by a system to make it difficult
Right,
for a group of
right.
people to have what is constitutionally in their rights to do. And it is seemingly going unnoticed or unopposed. And
Okay,
so
so
that's a
two,
concern for us.
two of those things, we'll say two of those things are new, more or less. You have the uh, mail-in ballot is pretty new.
Right.
And then you have the, what is it? It was another one, the drive-up voting. They want to stop that. Now, as far as the polls, I mean, now herein lies where it would behoove the Black community, if you want to give us that such name, if we're going to create this Black community, that will behoove us to actually create our own voting polls, right? Create our own mailing ballot boxes to where that's in our community, to where to say, hey, here go Church A in this community. Church A has went out and registered to have a mailing voting box in this Black community. So you're in this community. Now, just say there's 100 of them. So in those hundreds where you don't have to drive far, it still, again, it still works in our favor. Now, if anything, if we look at that as a strategic move, that could actually work in our favor. Why? Because if you look at it now, because I've looked at statistics amongst Black, we've lost our voting power because it's been prostituted so much because we're so far apart from each other as far as voting as a block.
Yeah.
A voting block. To say, well, here, that group votes together. We don't
Yeah.
vote together.
Yeah.
So if anything, that is to me, we can use that as we can take that what is perceived to be a negative and use it and turn into our positive.
Come on.
Now what it's
it.
saying is said, hey, we're going to use that and maneuver ourselves back into voting power. Now we're not going to be split. We ain't going to have the Negroism of, well, I'm a Republican. I'm a Democrat. Well, old Bernie, weekend. I call him weekend at Bernie's. Old weekend at Bernie's is he gonna get in office? And old hair hat wearing Trump gonna get back in? Who cares? If we had our stuff locked in place, we can care about those two slave masters. We can care less about either one of them, because that's what I perceive them as. We weren't about some guy he got 1 foot in and out the grave. That's why I call him weekend at Bernie's, because let's just be clear. If that guy died today, they put them, I would say he dead now. Look at them glasses that they got on him. He probably dead. He looked like weekend at Bernie's. And they puppet him, he's being puppeted around like he's still alive. That man don't know his last name from his first name. So we looking to thrive in some old man who's his Alzheimer's is starting to sink in. My thing is, where is our thinking? Where have our thinking gone? How are we thinking as a people? I'm really trying to figure us out. Like, what is going on with us? Looking for two old men that's gonna give us our freedom.
Because we don't have that definition. We don't have it defined for us because we don't hear that voice saying, this is what it looks like. This is what it sounds like. This is what it smells like. It's called unity. We don't have that definition, but our voices, platforms like this are going to do just that.
Yeah, you're right. We have to keep this platform going. We have to keep things moving. We have to keep as they say, keep the faith. And the faith, of course, is built by action.
Come on, it is.
We use action to push faith. Faith is just not going to do the work on its own. You have to be the pushing point of faith.
My brother, you just said it. Faith without works is dead. There it is.
See how that works, Minister P?
Come on now. Come on.
How that works.
Come on.
Faith ain't some just thin air mysterious thing. It's working through you
Right.
through us. We have to move it. If we don't move faith, it will just sit there as a word.
And that's why we should donate to KTSE Media to keep
Please,
this
people,
movement alive.
please, just to keep us moving along. That's all we ask. Look, we, as they say, we'll even take the stuff that jingles just to keep us moving.
Look,
But
100 pennies make $1.
right. That's true. That's true. Hey, it's change. It's change. That's that. I don't. We ain't not gonna dispute this reference to what makes adds up to $1. It all adds up to $1. So, uh, whatever anybody would be able to willing to donate to help us move this platform, so that way we can have a benefit that's reference to what we're trying to do, benefit of reference to our people, so that way faith won't be dead. We can keep that faith alive.
Yeah.
We can keep it moving.
Yeah.
Today's show is brought to you by Wakana CBD, Wakana for life. Keep that same energy, Wakana for life. Please go there and get your health and your wealth and get your spiritual mindset together in using those products. You have hair products, you have it is municipal products on there if need be. There's stuff for sleep apnea products. There's for skin products. There's all different pain, arthritic products there. Most people don't realize the CBD product goes a long way. If we had known that prior, we would have had a greater hold on that industry as a community. So please, I invite you to go to this site that you see. If you are able to tune in, if you will see us on YouTube and listening, and if you are listening to us now live, website is keep that same energy .wakana.com, or even go to the site Wakana for Life, Wakana CBD. You would surely find these items there. But just to support us is keep that same energy .wakana.com. And we invite you to actually, as well as we talk about, support us and donate as you see across the screen. And for the ones who are listening, it's KTS Media Cash App. Everybody should know at this point how Cash App goes. It's the $ in front of the handle that you choose to use. Ours, of course, is KTS Media. And we look forward to having you on our other platforms to get that spiritual enlightenment. And I hope Minister P would move it forward tomorrow on his Peace and Reality platform.
Yeah.
Love at Work Ministries, which airs at 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings. And we would invite you to tune in to be able to be talking about faith, pushing faith forward.
Check it out. Check it out.
Making
Check
it
it out.
move. If you want to hear that and how faith works, listen to Minister P, so it can give you a greater insight on how faith's supposed to truly work.
Yeah.
Not just sitting there and looking for something, just the rain can fall out the sky. We know that. But faith, you have to be the pushing force. You have to work. And our missing other co-host, Jay Reese, she airs on Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. With her show Fresh Air. So we invite you to tune into those platforms, and as well as this platform, as you've seen us. We've changed our time. Her time is 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Thursdays. Fresh Air, this is the Fresh Air Show with Jay Reese. And in this platform here, we've moved our time. Let's look at this. We've moved it up to 11 a.m.
Yes.
As we have started we're going to start a new journey here. We're going to start moving things forward. That way we can get this day rolling and get ourselves moving in the afternoon as reference to things that we have to do, programs that we may be running or things that we need to do. So we air, let's look at this, airs at 11 a.m. on Saturdays to 12 p.m. And you would like to tune into us as well on our YouTube channel. It's KTSE Media, which is is on the YouTube channel. We love for you to go there to see, you can see our faces. You can see some of the you did get some of the verbiage that I put out as far as the sponsors, as far as the donation tag, if you didn't get that information. And you can see our lovely faces as well. If you like to look at us. But you can catch us there on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe.
Right.
Please like our videos as well.
Right.
Hoping you like our face, like our videos. Subscribe definitely, so that way you can see our fresh content that's there. I know Minister P shortly, I'm sure we'll be trying to get him set up on YouTube as well. That's going to be a great aspect to get him going there. That way people can see him.
Looking forward to it, brothers and sisters.
Oh yeah. So I definitely invite you to tune in to us next week. We'll be live next week as well. Same new time, same place, different date, but same energy. We're keeping that same energy.
Yes.
As reference to moving this train forward. As reference to this train we're on the train of problem solving, and we're getting rid of the blocks, the roadblocks of negroism, I should say. That's our new term. Negroism needs to stop, and Negroism needs to be put to rest forever. That way we don't become a divisive and distracting point to our cause.
Yeah.
So this has been our show. We strive to bring our communities back. We strive to gain power and authority in our communities. And we strive to get our dollars and communities back to where we can thrive and survive in this greater society. That's been our time. People, I will see you, see me, and you can hear me. See you next week.
Peace out.